my Fossa Paws, welcome back to another video where today I'm going to be giving you my personal tips for customization. These are tips that I've discovered or came up with along the way, and I figured why not share them with you guys. I've included some of these tips in shorts before, but I figured that it would be important to include them in a full-form video like this as well so it can reach a bigger audience. I have to preface this video by saying that a lot of these tips involve having to take apart other stuffed animals, including other Beanie Boos, and just other objects in general. So if you're not comfortable with doing that or you just don't want to do that, then this video probably isn't for you. So I apologize if that's the case for you. But as somebody who uses parts of other stuffed animals very regularly, it doesn't faze me. Also, can we just take a moment to appreciate August's sick outfit? This is genuinely my favorite outfit that I've ever put together for him. It's so cool. I love it. I would wear this. Kind of reminds me of Ozzy Osbourne for some reason. I don't even know why. Anyways, I'm very excited to share these with you, so let's just get right into it. My first tip that I have is a very simple and easy one, and that is to use Pom Poms as tails for animals such as rabbits or bears. You know, for the animals that naturally have circular or rounded tails. How you do this tip is very simple. Select the pom-pom of your choice, you remove the previous tail, obviously, and then you either sew or glue on the pom-pom in place of the old tail, and bam, that's it, there you go. I mostly use this tip for rabbits, and it works really well. You just need to color match. That's the only issue that you really come across using this tip, is that there, I feel like, aren't that many colors or shades of pom-poms, so it can be difficult to color match sometimes, especially for natural customs. But other than that, I haven't had any issues with this trick. Also, this custom is currently for sale on my Etsy if you're interested. The second tip that I have is a little more complex and intricate and requires a higher skill level, I'd say. But my second tip is to use those Halloween skeletal animal decorations. Those little skeletal animals that you find around Halloween. But yeah, my tip is to use those, using either pliers or scissors or just your hands, whichever is easier. Take apart one of those, you use the rib cage, and you insert it into your custom. This tip works great for gory customs, Halloween customs. It works great specifically for zombie customs. Sometimes they're pretty easy to break apart and others are more stubborn. But yeah, you just take apart the skeletal animal and then you use whichever part of it you want for your custom. In my case, I used the rib cage. What I did was I cut a hole in the chest of the Beanie Boo and then I glued in the rib cage and I painted it to look bloody. And that's it. You can often find those small animal Halloween decorations in dollar stores or just cheap convenience stores around Halloween time. What's great about this tip is unless they're really big, they're usually only a couple of dollars at most. So it's a really cheap and affordable hack to make gory and cool Halloween customs. The third tip that I have is one that requires taking apart other Beanie Boos or stuffed animals. So you may not be able to use this one if you don't like doing that. But if you are one of the people who also does that, then this may be a good tip for you. And that is to use different Beanie Boo parts as other Beanie Boo parts, if that makes sense. The main example that I have here specifically is using wings as ears or vice versa. Not including leopard ears or hamster ears, for example, because they're circular, so those wouldn't work as well for wings here. But specifically triangular ears and wings work great. In this case, I used the wings of Icicle the Owl to look like the ears of this custom, and you wouldn't be able to tell if I didn't tell you, honestly, because they just are so convincing and they work so well as ears. It really expands what you can do with your customs, because instead of just limiting yourself to using limbs as what they are already, for example, just taking ears from one and using it as ears on another, when you actually start doing this, you have so many more possibilities and unique combinations that you can make. Generally one of my favorite tips to do, and I think one of the easiest. The fourth tip that I have is also very simple and affordable, and that is to use false eyelashes for your customs. This is great if you want to make your custom look just more eccentric and exaggerated. And most false eyelashes, at least that I buy and that I can find, are really affordable, usually only a couple of dollars. And they come in packs and you can find them at your local convenience store or gas station or Walgreens. Like, you can find them basically everywhere. I love the way that they make them look, and especially because it gives like a 3D aspect to it. This is definitely a tip that I would suggest for beginners. And then you just glue them on the eyes. The fifth and final tip that I have is to use like Barbie tails and stuff like that, or just tails from other stuffed animals if you want to make a mermaid custom or an aquatic custom. I would suggest the more like fabric ones as opposed to like the hard plastic ones, because you might break those trying to remove them from the doll, and oftentimes they're way too small to actually fit on a Beanie Boo. So I would suggest more so using the fabric ones. But yeah, you can find like fabric accessories, like fabric mermaid tail accessories that like your Barbies can wear, or just like those mermaid stuffed animal doll things, you know what I'm talking about? Yeah, remove the tails, steal them. Steal the tails, stuff them, and then sew them onto your Beanie Boos. It works great. It gives you a great base and starter for a mermaid tail if you don't want to make one completely from scratch. It's a great place to start making mermaid tails. It gives you something to like work off of instead of just starting completely from nothing. And most times you can just leave them as is if you don't want to go any farther and like make them look any more like eccentric or anything, or any more complicated or detailed. Like this I just stole from a mermaid doll. All I did was have to remove it from the doll and then stuff it and sew it on. That was it. I didn't have to apply the sequins myself or anything. So yeah, depending on some of them, you can just leave them as is if you want and they'll look great, but I like to go the extra mile and add stuff onto them as well. It's a lot easier than making a tail completely from scratch. Trust me. Speaking as somebody who has, it's a lot easier. And honestly looks more uniform sometimes and more seamless. I used a different method for the tail of each of these customs, and they all turned out really differently. So there are tons of different ways that you can go with this. This one I stole from a mermaid stuffed animal specifically, so I didn't have to do much with this one. All I had to do was stuff it and sew it on, and I was done. With this one, I started with a Barbie tail, so I didn't need to make the actual shape of the tail, and all I had to do was stuff it. And like I said, I could have done the same process that I did with the other one and left it as is, just stuffed it and sewed it on. But with this one, I decided to make it look more detailed and went the extra mile and glued sequins onto it, so it didn't look like this originally before. That blue part is the original tail. And then for this one, I made it completely from scratch with just 2 pieces of fabric sewn together, and as you can see, it was kind of lumpy because it was my first ever made from scratch, like hand-sewn, hand-stuffed tail. But yeah, there are a lot of different methods that you can use for mermaid tails, and some are easier, some are harder, but I think they all look pretty good, and I hope that this tip helped you. So there you have it. There were 5 of my tips for customizing your own Beanie Boos. I hope that these helped you, and I hope that I explained them well enough and wasn't too like incoherent and rambly, because I feel like I am a lot of times. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. I had a lot of fun making it. I'll see you whenever it is I decide to make a video next. Bye!